I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Chisel.
Here.
Bell Richard.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Luce.
Here.
Bergen.
Here.
Hadley.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Carlson.
Aye.
Bell Richard.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Bergen.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Public comment. We've got Reese Magnuson, who's the new Executive Director of the Winnebago County Convention and Visitors Bureau. She's gotten snowed out a couple times, but I think we finally got you here. It was close.
Yes,
So
I'm happy to finally be here and meet you all. I've met several of you.
I'm going to have you pull the microphone around just a little bit.
Is that better?
There,
Oh,
that's
I can
much
hear
better.
myself now.
Thank you.
Yes, so happy to meet you all. My husband and I both grew up in this area, and we're really thrilled to be back. This is where our best friends and our family are. Also really excited about this new job with tourism. I had such great adventure here and continue to visit and have adventure, and I really want to show the world what that adventure is and all the culture too. It's just so awesome.
And how have your first couple of weeks, I guess it's been, maybe 3 weeks, how's that been going?
Yeah, it's been going well. You know, there's a learning curve and kind of getting back into it, trying to meet people and figure out our best path.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody got any questions for Reese? Okay, well, welcome to the area. We'll look forward to hearing more from you as you go along.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there any other public comments that does not pertain to the agenda that anybody would like to speak on? Seeing none. Would you like to read the consent agenda, please?
I would do that. Consent agenda includes minutes of the April 2nd, 2018 meeting, claims, authorized mayor to sign an order accepting a settlement agreement with Casey's General Store regarding tobacco violation, renewal Class B beer permit for Pulpit Rock Brewery including outdoor service area and Sunday sales privileges, renewal Class B permit for Pizza Hut and Sunday sales privileges, new special Class C beer wine license for TG2 including outdoor service area and Sunday sales privileges, change order number 2, Court Street retaining wall improvement in the amount of $913.10. Partial pay estimate number 3, final and retainage release for the Court Street retaining wall improvement project in the amount of $4,762.72. Resolution number 2878, accepting the Court Street retaining wall as complete. Partial pay estimate number 3, Trout Run Trail Restoration Doug Road Project in the amount of $185,647.72. Change order number 1, Dry Run Trail Culvert Crossing of Highway 52. That's a cost-neutral, no-cost change order. Consider approval of special event for Earl Public Transit for 2018 Pooch Scooch 5K run on April 28th. And Resolution 2877, a resolution ordering bids, publishing notice to bidders, and publish notice of public hearing May 7, 2018 at 5:45 p.m. for the airport pavement improvement project, which is a federally funded project.
Any questions on the agenda?
Can you just clarify what TG2 is? Is that?
I believe that's the tap room up on College Drive.
Okay.
And that's a new license.
Any other questions? A motion to approve the agenda?
Also, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Hadley,
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Passed. Discussion and possible action on amending the city flag policy. And I believe that, Chad, you've got Melissa Cook is here, and you put,
And you have a letter in your Dropbox and on your desk.
okay. Hi.
Okay, so we can spot. Can you hear me okay? So, good evening. I'm Melissa Cook, Chair of the Decorah Human Rights Commission. So thank you for letting me talk with you tonight about this issue. So we, the Decorah community, have the opportunity to celebrate our community and connect with a worldwide movement. On Saturday, May 12, 2018, Decorah will host a Pride Festival honoring and celebrating LGBTQ community members, their friends, and families. We will be one of many thousands of communities celebrating LGBTQ people around the world. The Decorah Human Rights Commission requests that the City of Decorah amend its downtown flag display policy to allow the rainbow pride flags to be flown in the downtown district the weekend of Pride Festival, May 11th through the 13th, 2018. Flying the pride flags would send a clear message to all that the Decorah community welcomes and appreciates diversity and values all of its community members. The LGBTQ community and its supporters have not felt this value recently in Decorah. In fact, they have been under attack. In May 2017, pride flags were stolen from several homes. In early 2018, pride flags were slashed and torn down at more than 6 homes. Police reports have been filed. Victims have also met with the Decorah Human Rights Commission. Flying the pride flags in the downtown district would tell Decorah community members, Iowans, and the nation that we value our LGBTQ community members and welcome all LGBTQ people to visit Decorah. We want Decorah to be a safe, hospitable place for everyone. We currently celebrate some groups in Decorah, but not others. We celebrate Norwegians and their long history in Decorah with the flags and festivities. LGBTQ members have been here just as long as Norwegians, also making a difference in our community, but we don't honor them. We need to start. In Decorah, we need to fly the flags that celebrate diversity, respect, and love. Thank you. I did include some additional details. If you have some questions, common questions that might come up in a letter, but I won't. I think you can read them.
And looking at the current flag display policy, which was effect May 2017, I believe that the council at that time worked with the downtown display for Luther College flags and Decorah Community School District flag display. But there wasn't any comment about miscellaneous display. Can you review the process by which we would, if they chose to update this, what that process would be?
Right. This is listed on the agenda for discussion and action. So if you'd like to take action to amend this document today, we just need direction on what that action might be. Otherwise, take it under advisement, consider it at committee, direct staff to make changes or updates or research additional information.
I think that you stated that if you used all of the poles, there would be 40.
That's the number we have in inventory today for each of the ones.
And is that just down water? Does it go, or is it just?
I would defer to Kevin as to how far.
That would be just Water Street.
That's just Water Street?
The high school would be just shy of 40 to
Okay.
just be Water Street down to the museum.
Okay.
Sixth Street.
So that ends at Mill Street.
Discussion? Very good.
I think supporting groups who are seeking to expand and recognize rights for all people is a positive thing. I would vote in support of altering the policy to allow community groups to request to come before and seek permission to also provide flags to be flown at certain dates.
Well, I thought the recommendation coming from the Human Rights Commission was very valid, because if you look at if you look in the charter of the commission themselves, under the ordinance itself, the powers and responsibilities of the commission, one of them is education, which is plan, conduct, and assist organizations, schools, businesses, religious groups, civic organizations, libraries, and museums in programs designed to increase community awareness, appreciation of diversity, and full securing the rights of all citizens. And the second one is plan, conduct, and assist other organizations in cultural events designated to promote the dignity and human rights of all individuals, families, to foster understanding of human diversity, and addressing discriminatory practices in an open and democratic way. So you knocked it, your ask knocks it out of the ballpark for a committee that we've established with an ordinance. I encourage flying of the flag in recognizing equal rights for all citizens and in the spirit of inclusion. That being said, I also am sensitive of the work of the street department, and I would have my concept would be, what if we were to put flags at Water Street Park, where the Pride event starts and it ends, correct? And then June is Pride Month, right? We could fly there's a precedence from other cities all over the U.S. in flying the Pride flag at the City Hall for Pride Month. It's been done with presidential proclamation and whatnot. It wouldn't be reinventing the wheel, and it would be a good show of force. That would be my personal recommendation, that we encourage it and enable it at Water Street Park for sure, and at City Hall for Pride Month.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from other council people.
Kevin, how much time does it take to put flags up, take them down, just go through the whole process? Any idea?
Typically, when we do all of our flags, which is some short street stuff, it's 2 hours twice. So 2 hours, 2 guys, 2 hours to put them up, 2 guys, 2 hours to take them down.
And the Human Rights Commission would provide the flags, correct?
In collaboration with the Decorah Pride.
And Luther provided their own flags as well, did they not?
Luther in high school and Northwest does too.
Oh, okay.
And that includes, they do all the storing of flags and whatever.
We have the school flags and Northwest flags at our shop.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So in the administrative policy, there spells out in detail our agreement with Luther and with the school, but we do fly other flags, including United Way flags, as well as the Scandinavian flags during Nordic Fest. So I think that the policy reads clearly in certain steps, but we do fly. We have the authority and have frequently flown other flags. I'm definitely in support of the recommendation from the commission.
Does this open us up to groups that people might not agree with? I mean, once you make precedent where you're going off of this, are we sliding down a slippery slope where there may be a group that comes in that some people don't agree with?
Really depends.
Because we've opened the door.
Wouldn't it be able to go through the Human Rights Commission?
Not necessarily. Why do they
No,
have
it could
to?
be, it might be just general. It might not be a human rights type of display. Maybe it's something else.
But this wouldn't require us to amend the flag ordinance.
If you're going to put them on Water Street, I believe it does.
Okay.
If you're going to just have them on the flagpole in front of City Hall, just council approval, because that's not stipulated in your policy here.
So could we have it go through the Human Rights Commission if there were other groups?
That's what I was
to prevent things like hate groups from...
Well,
Right.
it depends on who's bringing it, and who feels it's a hate group and who doesn't.
But
there's...
The Human Rights Commission would judge whether it's a hate group or not. I mean, that's what the Human Rights Commission does. it looks at discrimination, right?
I agree, but I wonder if there aren't other examples for flags that don't have to do with religious or humane. It could be some other type of a flag that somebody might want to fly.
Right, but it would allow, it still allows the protection of whether it's deemed discriminatory or not, right?
It would. I think I would see that a policy, perhaps you update this policy to reflect that people come before on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
But maybe give some general guidance.
That's, if I could speak for, that's what I would suggest. So for example, to your point, so like the ACLU, for example, will have to support anybody's message. It's a free speech issue. But as a city council, you do not. You can have, so I actually wrote the word celebrate diversity, respect, and love as sort of an opportunity of like, you set a standard, set in your policy, make these types of groups, these types of, giving this message. So I've heard, I've only been here for a year, but I've heard many people talk about having Decorah as a diversity type community, welcoming diversity, and people have talked about having other types of flags, other types of things to show that. I think it would be great in your policy to state that very clearly, having groups that do that, which weeds out a lot of groups. So no, you could even do like no promotions of a corporation or an entity. Yeah. There's a lot of things you could do.
I think I wondered too if the current policy talks about who's paying for the flags. Does the current policy reflect?
And I guess I don't know if that language was in here, but that was the agreement with those organizations, is that they would provide those.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I see.
School districts provide.
I would also, if it's only 4 hours, I'd be okay with hanging the flags, but maybe not buying the flags.
Yeah. And we're not asking you to buy the flags.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Or store them. I didn't know that they actually stored all the other ones.
Well, they store them just for this simple fact of they need them at 6 in the morning.
So we'll talk with that group about that.
Get them put up, right?
Figure it out.
I would go back to Ross's statement about the difference between hanging them on Water Street versus on the flagpole in front of City Hall. I think you need to kind of wade through that issue and see what direction the council's going.
To Johanna's point about the Norwegian flag being flown and the United Way flags, is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes.
And then how did they fit into this policy currently?
The United Way flags were approved by council sometime around 2006. Actually, I have it right here. 2006 in August, those were approved. We didn't include them in here just because they had already been approved, I guess, at some level. The Nordic Fest flags, they're just kind of the standard that fits into their special event application. They kind of secure downtown when they have their event. It's part of that program.
Well, could we do that then? Since they're having a parade, could it just be part of the special event?
I think you want to document whatever changes you're making just because of the precedent that it opens for other groups.
Sure, but we already have a precedent with Nordic Fest, so if that's how the flags fly for that parade, then there is precedent.
It seems to me, it seems to me that we need to update this policy. That would it be broader, because it's specifically, this policy is specific just for Luther and the community school, but it doesn't say anything about Nordic Fest or United Way.
Right.
Well, should it go into the Betterment Committee then, so that we can get the wording such that we're not setting ourselves up for a possible discrimination suit if another group comes in and we turn them down?
I think that would be a good place for it to go. I know that because of the timeliness of this particular event, and would you give consideration in that fact by having them, have you already submitted the parade request?
I'm
The
hoping
parade is May 12, and that's already been approved.
Okay, that's been approved.
Okay. Yeah. And that's the Decorah Pride. Not me.
Yeah, and that doesn't have anything to do with the Human Rights Commission.
Right. I was hoping somebody from that group would be here, but it doesn't
We
look
have
like
plenty
it.
of time before the next meeting, and that's still ahead of this event, so.
There is I would ask our city attorney, and I would advise the council too, there is a ruling by, well, it came from the Iowa League of Cities Court or legal counsel about a court case, had to do more with prayer at council meetings, displaying nativity scenes and those types of things. And if you allow those things, you need to allow all of those things. And you can't, even by a policy or a resolution, say, well, these types of things, but not these types of things. The Supreme Court's been very clear in First Amendment. If you open it for any of these, you got to open it for all of them. And that might be something we need to go back to and take a look at as part
So
of
you're saying if Montessori decided to put flags on Water Street because we opened it to the Decorah community schools, we would have nothing to stand on to say we can't support a private school system?
Maybe, but I'm thinking more of the First Amendment protections offered for religious or social groups or those types of things. And frankly, I'm thinking of a pride flag, and if there's a group out there that wants to promote a Confederate flag, how are you going to challenge that and say we're not allowing that?
I think we would say that in the interest of supporting, as the Human Rights Commission has suggested, the diversity of our community, this is something that takes one of the only diverse aspects of our community. I mean, there's not too many different ethnic persons in our community. So there are significant factors that would consider the pride event part of their community. So I don't think it's a thing of you open a slippery slope. I think it's you recognize the diverse community we have here, and you honor that diversity by saying we want this to be publicized through flags on Water Street.
That being said, I still think that we need to have a policy that reflects whatever way you put it, whether it's a case-by-case basis or because the current one we have is not relate to what's being requested right now.
And I'm just suggesting that if you're going to amend the policy, you need to have a legal basis for it.
Okay. So that,
And are you of the opinion, John, that approving something like this would open it to anything?
People can make a lawsuit out of anything.
True.
So first I would hope ultimately Councilman Lucy would be right, but I haven't looked into this here, but I can think of off the top of my head license plate cases where people apply to states to have, in Iowa, I don't know, we had like 30 different ones. I think Texas had Daughters of Confederacy wanted to have the Confederate flag. Ultimately, I believe Texas said no, but it was a long road to get there and to have that upheld. And the reason they said no was because they felt it discriminated. Long story short, I think you can have that policy. However, it is the type of thing people love to litigate. Hopefully nobody would, but it's possible. The more consistent you are across the board, and you apply it even-handedly, the better you are. But there's always a question of, what are you endorsing by doing this? And if your idea is you're endorsing being inclusive, that's great. But then what's the other arguments people are going to use about, well, be inclusive about us and us, but we don't like what their message is. So I think
it doesn't, since the Human Rights Commission itself is bringing this forth, and we include sexual preference as a point of discrimination. If it was a civic group or a religious group coming forth with a request, I don't know.
I think I still would like to see a policy in place that reflects different wordage than the policy that we currently have.
Are you suggesting that we go to committee,
I guess
revamp this policy?
I don't know. I just think it's an event thing. It's an event-based request.
Okay.
And if you look at the Luther request, they have homecoming, family weekend, Christmas of Luther, commencement, Board of Regents meetings, possibly athletic events, school district, same thing.
Yeah, because if we don't approve the event.
Nordic Fest, same thing. I mean, the event is the event.
So if the event's been approved.
I mean, I think what I'm sort of hearing, and Lauren, to your point, I think, which is well taken, sort of some process that indicates a request. There is an approval process, and that could be with the Human Rights Commission or the council in connection with an event.
So we do have a special event application process. There's a process delineated in code. Maybe that's where you need to go.
And then if it's a problem, then we refer it to the Human Rights Commission.
I think you want to be careful you don't have them be your flag
Yeah, I think it
screening
has,
committee,
whatever
right?
flag,
Right.
it would be, I think would have to come before the city council. So what would your recommendation be for?
Well, I'd have to review that special event code again, but
Okay.
we could develop a section in there that talks about flags or banners or streamers or whatever, and that might be a section of that process that gets approved.
Melissa, in the discussion with the Human Rights Commission, was there any reflection on other cities in Iowa who have policies like this? Was that a part of your discussion?
No, we didn't talk about like flags down other main streets, actually.
There are quite a few referrals online. I went and looked at some. There also were, like in one city where it was sent, the flags were centrally set, like let's say in the middle of water in Winnebago or in that. I know in this one there's a particular length of time.
Well, that's why I was suggesting that we use Water Street Park for the event itself. You know, the flags at the event. And then if we want to fly the flag for Pride Month, because that's also another precedent that's been done in other cities, and through presidential proclamation or mayoral proclamation in our case, we can do it that way too.
I appreciate what the flags lend to our downtown, right? Particularly in promoting Decorah as an inclusive community that people want to visit and live in, right? So I guess I lean towards setting a policy where the flags can fly on all the poles, right?
And I would lean toward approving this because of the event already being approved, and it's a request to augment that event.
So is our discussion whether to make a recommendation tonight or to go to committee? Is that where we're at?
Well, you're looking at several different
You could make a
pieces.
motion.
But you're looking at several different pieces, whether it's, you know, that needs more discussion than what we can discuss here. The event itself, we need to give an answer to because of the timely fashion. But I do think that we need to have more discussion if you're looking ahead, and that should be in betterment. So would I wonder if it would be included in the special event application for this particular?
Well, this event doesn't have a special event application, they just have a parade permit.
Okay.
Because that's what it is. That's all it is a parade. Starts at point A, ends in point B. Those are reviewed by staff and the police department, and that's the only review they get.
Oh, I love meetings. I move to refer to community betterment, and we'll try to schedule something in the next week or so.
I'd second that.
Any further discussion?
If I could just quickly add something.
Sure.
I have talked to several Luther students who are part of the LGBTQ community, and they feel quite safe on campus at Luther, but they don't quite feel safe in the community. So anything that would make them feel more comfortable would be wonderful.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion to refer to betterment. We got a second. Roll call.
Bergen?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Carlson? Luce?
No.
Johnson?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
One dissenting, Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay. Number 7. Discussion and possible action on adoption of the city's 2010 sustainability plan. Do you have background on that?
I don't have a lot of background on this, other than to say that the current sustainability plan was accepted, in October 2010. It was a plan that a community committee developed, worked on, and put together, and then presented to the council in October of that year. It was accepted at the time, but not adopted. In conversation with Councilpersons Luce and Hadley, they had asked for it to come back for consideration, review, and they're here. They can speak further, I guess.
Thank you. Did you work with Chad's intern as far as working with the sustainability update?
We did talk with Lauren some.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to this by any means, but it is 72 pages, and I have yet to have a chance to read the entire thing. Just looking at the table of contents, I know that stormwater is mentioned in there. So I'm wondering if some of this may need to be changed or is a little outdated. Has anyone read this from beginning, cover to cover? Cover to back? You too?
Yeah. And Kirk and Dan,
I guess I'm just
and
the slacker here.
And Lorraine, we're all within the committees that established it.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and read it, I think. But is the current one you're recommending the one that's on the city webpage?
Yes.
Okay. But there hasn't been any updating of...
That's why I'm asking.
Okay.
That's why we were asking for it to be adopted, push it back, and then send it back to P&Z to make it a living document, because in the first 3 pages of the document it actually says this is a living document, right? Except it hasn't been. We've made progress on a lot of things, and we've done a lot of things. The city wouldn't have accepted it if they thought that there were things that were negligent, right? But I think there is a difference between accepting and adopting and then having our planning commission actually make it a living item is important, because we don't have any formal sustainability process.
I guess that was my question, is what is the difference between accepting and adopting?
Accepting, you can say thank you. Adopting is, oh, here's our plan. Let's look at what we are going to do with this, how we're going to change it, how we're going to say that's accomplished, how we're going to... So my sense is the comprehensive plan that's just been gone through after a 5-year period to update, I think that's what Ross is alluding to in terms of making it a living... Let's see what's actually been accomplished, what is in there that we're very close, what isn't there that should be, could be, and then edit our adopted sustainability.
So yeah, I guess we could amend if there's a motion, we could amend it to being adopt and send to planning and zoning for revision.
So I am totally in agreement that I would love to see us adopt a sustainability plan, and I'm going to say one of those but statements. So I read this like 2 months ago, so not this week. And there is quite a bit of, there are components of it that have been completed, and there are components that have been investigated and determined this doesn't make sense for our community. In your more recent review of that, are we 50% of the way? Are we?
I would say we're half.
Yeah.
But that's the benefit, is taking that, recognizing what we've done, and having the planning commission
and
come
P&Z
forth
is
with...
looking at a comprehensive plan right now?
They're working through a rewrite. As a matter of fact, we have a capstone meeting on Wednesday, right?
Okay, well maybe it's not.
No, on the comp plan.
Maybe it's not P&Z then.
On the comprehensive
Well,
plan.
I'm just wondering right about timeline of where to refer them.
Yeah, it feels different than the Planning and Zoning Commission, because there are a lot of other things in here they don't necessarily touch on. which is why I think there was more of an ad hoc committee that put it together in the first place. But
So like, I'm pretty confused. So between accepting and adopting, is it that we go ahead and, as a group, look through this and come back and talk more? I'm asking.
I don't know what Councilman Luce or Hadley are looking for. I guess my recommendation would be that you work through it with an ad hoc committee and make changes and updates, and then bring it back for adoption.
I wondered about that.
Seem like you would adopt it, I guess, first, and then make all these changes, and then adopt it again.
Yeah, why
as
wouldn't
an
you just
amended,
review
right?
it, look through it, put it into a committee and go through, or an ad hoc committee to work with it?
Ad hoc, I mean, there was a pretty good cross-section of community members here.
Huh?
I mean, we could have P&Z look at it, but I think there's going to be some things in here they're not going to.
I have reservations about adopting something that we think we're 50% of the way through, right? If we think in this next year we would be looking at something considerably different, let's just jump into that process. Steve, to your point, I think we adopt rather than accept, so we hold ourselves accountable. We say we want to measure, we want to use this as our measurement of movement, and we want to come back to it every 6 months and say what's happened, right? That's what feels important.
That was the impetus to adopt now,
and look
rather
at
than
it
just have
and
it
say,
set on
"Yay,
the
we're
shelf
done."
for another 4 years.
Have it referred to a
Well-
committee because it was.
Yeah, I hear that.
But actually, I think that the people that are sitting at the city council now need to have a chance to look at it before we adopt something. But then we also have to have a timeline that's going to be active, not just sitting on the shelf.
But this is my point, is that the council members who are all here have had this document since they were elected, and it's been very easy for us to just set it aside and not be attentive to it.
I would say that between January 1st and now, there's been a lot of other stuff that we've been looking at. I know where it is at. I haven't looked at it, but I think that there needs to be more time for the people to know that they have to go in and take a look at it.
It's semantics.
Can we wait maybe until we got a few things off our plate? I just feel like we've got a lot on our plate right now. And this is pretty ambitious from what I mean. It's a pretty big document. How legally binding is this, if at all?
Well, that would be my question, and one concern I would have is make sure it is not considered part of the comprehensive plan, because once it becomes part of, if it could be construed as part of the comprehensive plan, it is binding, and it does have big ramifications on whatever's done. However, maybe you can adopt it and have some hedging language that it's non-binding. You make it clear it's non-binding. It's for reference. You know, I don't know if that waters down your difference between adoption and exception, but it might be a happy medium. But that would be my one concern off the bat, is make sure it is not considered part of the comprehensive plan.
Well, that was the question at the time, why it got accepted as being completed and used as a guide, because some people can't afford to put in the sustainability measures, especially with new construction or remodeling of existing structures. They're going to do as much as they can comfortably afford, but some of these we felt went way in-depth and could deter development in the community. So we accepted it. People can use it as a guide for moving forward, and that's where we stood at the time. And I would like more time to go back and reread it, because it's probably been 7 years since I've looked at it.
So we need some direction as to which way to go. It sounds like...
Move to table.
Second.
We have a motion to table with a second discussion. I'd like to see some kind of a definite time frame. I don't want to just, I want to be able to bring it back up again.
And that's why I would speak against moving to table without any time reference on it.
We're referring,
I like Andy's idea of waiting until we get a couple of these things up our plates.
Irons out of the fire.
We got a lot of big issues.
I would hope as a council, we would always be so busy that we wouldn't want to put anything away to have to deal with later.
yeah, we haven't voted on it.
It's our responsibility as the representatives of this city to deal with things in a timely manner. So to say, let's put it off until some other day that we don't label, I think is wrong.
We put it off
Well,
for
we-
8 years. I think we can handle like 2 more weeks.
And we've got a motion and a second on the table.
Just as part of the discussion, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, but we're discussing that motion, so we're...
And I would hope that I hope tabling wouldn't be another 7 years. I agree with Lorraine. I would like to see a time lane. You know, we just sent a flag-based ordinance back to committee. You know, you can always refer things back to committee to die. And we do have a lot on our plate, Andy. I completely get it. But, you know, we've gotten our town hall meetings out of the way. Adopting and forming a subcommittee is meaningful and would be proactive, right? So could we agree to form a subcommittee then instead of just completely tabling?
But you have to vote on the motion.
I know, but this is the discussion before we vote, and I was hoping that people would vote no and then come up with something with a timeline and some guidance, right? That's called politics.
It's Robert's rules.
All right.
Well, I will amend the motion to table and form a committee to revise and update the sustainability plan.
Okay, John, I need some advice. Do they have to vote on that motion, or can he amend the motion?
Nobody seconded it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Johnson
I
did.
think, you seconded it, you're not bound by how you vote. You can second something to see it defeated. So I'd say that you just continue with that motion, and if the idea is to defeat it, you can vote however you want, and then somebody make another
Makes a
motion.
motion for the
Yep.
second one.
Well, can I withdraw my motion?
I don't think once it's been
I don't think you can.
seconded.
It's been seconded.
All right.
Okay, so roll call for the motion. The motion is
To table,
to table.
period.
Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Johnson. No. Luce.
No?
Carlson.
No.
Bell Richard.
No.
Hadley.
No.
Bergen.
No.
Then I will restate.
Okay, that's okay. I just got to make sure I'm doing it by the book here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Table and form a committee to revise and update the sustainability plan.
Second.
Discussion?
Again, we have no timeline, so I'm a little bit apprehensive to vote in favor of something that's just given to a committee without any kind of closure or date to try and accomplish it by.
I would say that that committee would be set up prior either to the next city council or one in May, and that there would be a timeline attached to the work that they're doing.
We can shoot for, after the next council meeting,
Yeah,
but it's hard with no calendars here to
yep.
pick actual dates.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Bergen.
Aye.
Bell Richard.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Passed. So,
Thank you, Mayor.
you're welcome. I'll come looking for somebody to work on the committee. Okay, thank you very much. 8, consider site plan approval for the Bartel Eastern Star Edition and independent living homes.
So you have a site plan recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission in front of you. You've seen the documents in your Dropbox. There is a large rendition of the site plan and layout there by the mayor, if you need to see that. There are representatives, I think they're still here, from Eastern Barthel Star. So Generally, it's fairly straightforward site plan. It is on an existing site. It does have two components. One component enlarges and provides an addition to the existing care facility, and the other portion provides for some independent living development units to the south on land that's recently been acquired by the owner. The comment checklist is in your background notes. I guess, just the usual parking lots, sidewalks, stormwater runoff are key elements that have been discussed and provided satisfactory response by the owner through the planning and zoning process, review process. The independent living area, if you'll note on the site plan, does have some on-site retention, stormwater retention. Parking's pretty straightforward, providing that additional space where needed. The independent living provides for 2 off-street parking spaces per unit as required. I don't really have a whole lot else to add to it, so I don't know if you have questions. Again, the owners are represented. The architect is here. Gary's here. Lindsay represented the owner. We did have an independent review that's provided. I just opened it for conversation.
In the independent living drawing, are the parkings that are around the street on the next, are those new parking spaces there too?
That whole site is currently undeveloped. It used to be a single-family home, and that home has been removed, and so the site will be graded to provide for the amenities that you see there today.
Wow. So the far right of that picture, where the gray is?
That's the existing parking lot from the care facility.
So that's what I was wondering, if that's existing. Yeah.
And so with all the stormwater, there's retention of that, but then it all goes into the stormwater system?
Right.
I mean, it's just piped in?
It's a collected system. Today it just runs through the site. There's about 5 acres west of the site that isn't included in any stormwater management today. And so part of the intention is to collect that and deal with it and then route it through their piping system and then try to use the street system from there. The street system has only a certain amount of capacity, but at least in this way there's some basins and things to control, primarily from the perspective of erosion control and not having the steeper slopes an issue for the site.
And the 5 acres wooded?
Wooded area behind it, yeah. It's always come down the driveway, and now these changes are going to force the management of that just simply because it's going to come through the site in places that would cause problems.
So theoretically, with this site, there would be an increase to the volume of water going into the current stormwater system.
There's more hardscape, but there is at least some control of what has come through the mill.
I mean, is this one of those situations where we'd want to try to work with our stormwater fund to come up with something that just doesn't take and direct it in and tries to help it permeate into the groundwater?
It's a tough site from an infiltration standpoint because of the clay soil. So most of it is routed control as opposed to the infiltration style basin because there's just soil there to take the water. If you're familiar with the area when it gets really wet, there's tile in the street system. In fact, there's tile in the boulevard. The city participated in the cost of that, and the telephone company trenched it in because we wanted to try to help gather some of that runoff from the spring.
Some of the units are over here. This is undeveloped. This is their existing facility. The front of it.
This goes back a
They're
long
putting a
ways.
bunch of stuff up here too.
Some Montgomery Street set up to take the stormwater from this area.
Yeah, and
there were street systems in between are reconstructed. And that's primarily because the storm sewer today, in the four-way stop there, that goes through the hospital site and always has.
Yeah, so here's the existing facility. These are going to be new. This is new.
An ideal way of managing that. And so
And there's another new thing, to the left.
creates the opportunity to do that. But Montgomery Street was done with the intention that that could happen.
I'd make a motion to approve the site plan.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Hadley?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
It'll be fun to watch. Thank you for your efforts.
I'm to watch.
Okay. Consider approval of 2018 street improvement plan.
So you have a copy of the plan as massaged a little bit by Lindsay, just to kind of break it into assessed projects, non-assessed projects in your packet. And this is coming out of the March 26th Street Committee meeting, where that committee put forth the projects for 2018. Ross, I don't know if you want to elaborate on development of those projects, or?
We met with Lindsay, met with the street department, input from residents, and we looked into Ward and tried to pick projects that both were high impact, high exposure, but also things that were not sexy but infrastructure that just need to get done that we could afford. A big chunk of our street money from local option sales tax and gas tax. Local option sales tax, $350,000 of it right off the top was to pay off used to pay off the bonding for Short Street. So this year wasn't a big capital year, but I think we have found things that will improve streets that are highly deteriorated, not needing replacement, that can be repaired, and things that are, and alleys that impact people because it's their only way to access their houses or their garages, that have been, if not ignored, under-maintained for years and years. So we're kind of coming off of another year of that. Last year we did some, and I know people are like, why are you doing the alleys? The streets are all bad, but it's things that need to get done. It makes it easier for plows and for trucks and for public safety. It's just generally good policy, I think.
I would add that at least some of the non-assessed projects may be done in-house through the street department. Kevin and his crew can tackle some of those. Certainly all the assessed ones will need the formal process of public notice, plans and specifications, bidding documents, and those types of things to set in motion. Traditionally, staff has asked the council to approve this, so we know what we're doing for the next year and can start those processes.
I would move to approve the 2018 street improvement plan.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Okay, the consideration ordinance 1217 for the approving request for rezoning classification for TNT properties. This is the third and final reading.
I'd move to approve ordinance 1217.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Consider ordinance 1218 approving requested rezoning classification. This is also a third and final reading.
I'll make a motion for approval of ordinance 1218.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Carlson?
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Consider 1221, approving the adoption of Iowa Standard Urban Design Specification. This is SUDES, and it's the second reading. Any communication?
No comments at City Hall on this one?
Make a motion for approval of ordinance 1221.
Second?
Any discussion?
We're just going to mark it down.
Roll call.
Carlson?
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Chisholm?
Aye.
Okay, consider ordinance 1219, amending chapter 1320 of the water rates. This is the first reading.
Chad, there's got to be some comments on this one, isn't there?
Actually, I have not received any comments on this one at City Hall.
In that case,
You might want
There were a few comments on Saturday morning, but
You might want to explain a little more.
But you've received, none.
no.
That's awesome.
I don't. Yeah.
Okay, we're waters first.
Wow.
You know, I think there were a lot of comments at the committee meeting.
There were.
And is this not where we started in our budget workshop at 20%?
Well, I think staff presented 10% baked into the budget and then scenarios that showed 15 or 20 or 25 or 30%, right? During the budget work session in January.
Yeah.
And we talked about, suggesting rates for several years, but ultimately decided not to because there's not that much confidence that we'll know what we'll need to do next year.
And just for the sake of the public, because they can't see it on the agenda, ordinance 1219, amending the water rates, is suggesting a 20% increase in water rates. The next item on the agenda is ordinance 1220, sewer rates at 12%.
I would motion to approve ordinance 1219.
Second.
Discussion?
First reading, I guess.
This is the first reading. Discussion?
We still don't have, this isn't going to solve our issues, and we're not creating a plan for budgeting and allowing people to make those adaptations for next year. I think it's very short-sighted to do a one-year projection, and I'll say it.
I thought you had agreed to this. No?
No.
Was I wrong?
You were wrong.
Okay.
So noted.
I wanted to have a plan
I thought this was a compromise.
to get us out of this rather than do 20% and then, like the talk at the committee, go and hire some study guy to come in with money that we don't have because we'll still be in the red.
So noted. Roll call.
We have motion by Bell Richard and second by Carlson for first reading on 1219, ordinance 1219. Bell Richard?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Chisholm?
No.
That'll be coming back before us for a second and third reading.
That's correct.
So if there's discussion at that time, we'll do that before the motion is made. Okay, 14/12/20, Chapter 1328, sewer rates.
Any comments, Chad?
No comments on this one.
I'll make a motion for approval of ordinance 1220.
I'll second that.
And this is what we had in the budget, correct?
Discussion.
There was a
Yeah.
question. No, I don't think 12% was in the budget. Randy was asking what was in the budget.
So 12 or 10?
It was 3.
What did we budget?
10 and 3 is what it started at.
10 and 3? I'm sorry, I don't remember for sure what was baked into the, initially put in the budget projections during the budget workshop. It might have been.
Sure, it was 10 and 3.
I will probably vote for this in favor of the 12% increase, but I guess I'd go along with Randy in that I think it's important that somehow, and I know we can't encumber ourselves in future years, but just knowing somehow that we need to have we have to have meaningful analysis done to make sure we don't end up in the situation again.
But Randy doesn't want that analysis, is my understanding, correct?
Well, I think if we had some kind of plan, we can see which way we're going, and once we get out of the hole, then we look at, you know, if you want to bring somebody in, or if things are doing well, then you don't have to, and you save that $20,000, $25,000 for a study.
So you suggest, who would you suggest do the analysis for us?
First, we got to get out of the hole.
Which is what we're trying to do.
Which I think that both of these rate increases help us do that.
Exactly.
Right.
Step in the right direction.
But
Yeah,
we've had,
but like I said, you know, anybody wants to expand their business, you got to have a business plan, and they look at future projections. So we should be budgeting out for that too, by having a plan for 1920 and after. You know, after the end of this budget year, we'll know kind of where we're at, and if we have rather than go through these painful meetings where every year.
so we have a motion, it's second, and we're having a discussion.
So as part of, you know, Wanda did provide some analysis of at least the 30% in terms of, you know, in year 3 you were out of the red. By year 4 you had your reserves funds filled up with some modest increases for cost of living baked into the operating budget. What that doesn't include are capital projects or emergency repairs.
Right.
So those are hiccups along the way. But whether we spend more time at the staff level trying to predict or project, or we hire somebody that has a better understanding of rate modeling through those capital projects or unplanned emergency repairs and things, I guess we can talk about how we approach that.
Randy, your earlier question, it was 10% and 3% baked into the budget. I mean, I think we had some of these discussions at the committee meeting of, do we make a 1-year decision or do we set rates for 3 years? And I think that if we look at the history of the years where there were no increases and the years when there were very low increases, it concerns me that if we don't do a rate study or if we don't make some sort of formation about how we determine these rates moving forward, we as a council right now are committed to getting water out of the red and sewer maintaining a decent balance, but that may change in 2 years or 3 years. So I am interested in, you know, necessary increases this year and some sort of rate analysis. Randy, to your point, I don't know if we can wait 4 years to get out of the red, particularly in water, before we do that rate analysis.
I'm not saying you're going to have to wait 4 years. We don't know. You know, depends on development too.
So your problem with this is that we're not saying we don't have a plan for what the raise will be next
You know,
year?
we already voted on it. Let's move on to the motion that's on the floor. You know,
And then when it
we're
comes to
already done.
well, we have a motion.
We have a motion on the sewer rates
Second.
now.
We need to,
And seconded.
that's correct.
Yes.
And we need to vote on that.
And Randy, do you have similar, I'm sorry, I was hearing that you had similar concerns with the sewer rate increase, again, being a 1-year plan without precedent or any information.
Again, I'd like to see them tied together and made consistent, but, you know, we'll just move forward.
And this is the first reading.
First reading, yes.
This is first reading.
Roll call.
Carlson?
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
And then perhaps at the second reading, any type of discussion or concern could maybe make, before you make a motion. Otherwise, I need advice on how much discussion goes in between after a motion and a second. So, okay, consider board and commission appointments. One thing that I just wanted to there's a couple to be considered, but I also wanted to look, just generally speaking, at the commissions that we have had appointments for city council at, and I'll just read through them and let me know if you want to continue on to what those are. Chamber of Commerce is Randy. Wenatchee County Development Board is Chad. Decorah Jobs is Kurt Johnson. You're still on that one. Hotel Motel is Randy Chisel and Kurt Johnson. Am I missing any that have been currently in place? The ones that are up for reappointment are Municipal Communications Utility Board of Trustees, which is Paul Madsen. And I believe you talked with Paul about staying on that board?
I did, and he has submitted his application to be reappointed.
The one that Chuck Lohr had, which would be the Wenatchee County Convention and Visitors Bureau Board. I have an interest in that piece and would like to be on it for the time being.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So in terms of the appointment to the communications utility, that's a mayor recommended, council approved position.
Right.
Are these roles of council members serving on boards of the chamber and the WCDI, Decorah Jobs, are those, do you serve as the city council representative in those liaison into those?
Yeah, we have some on the LMI board too, I believe.
Oh, we do.
Yes.
You.
Airport Commission?
Are you on the LMI?
Not airport.
Not airport.
Why are they not on here?
There's no liaison to it.
Okay.
These are generally outside organizational boards and commissions, like Chamber, the LMI, WCVB.
I'd make a motion to approve Paul Madsen to the Communications Board.
Discussion? Roll call?
Hadley?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
And the second one? Do I nominate myself?
Anybody gonna fight for it?
I'll motion to appoint the mayor as the liaison for the WCCVB.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Discussion of capital improvement projects.
So I just wanted to make sure we keep this item in front of the council regarding capital improvements, major repairs, projects that are kind of in the works but pending funding. I mentioned a couple of them in the background notes, I think, regarding the Ronin tanks, which are elevated storage or ground level storage. Several projects that were brought up during the budget work session from the library staff. We have the floor in the firehouse that needs repairs. I just want to make sure that we kind of keep the conversation going. If we need to secure funding, that we start that process. And so I would suggest that you set a time very, very soon so we can hear from staff, we can develop these projects if we need to borrow money or otherwise get these going, that we do that.
The discussion with the department heads, we did discuss today, and when we were discussing, it was, well, really determines what happens on May 1st as far as how we would work with things. So we talked about maybe looking at, was it May 7th? Looking at, no, what did we discuss this?
Why would the referendum affect?
Only that if, let's say you have a capital improvement that you're working with, if you, well, let me think just a minute.
Well, longer term, there could be implications.
longer
If the
term
council would move
implications.
forward with a
Yeah.
petition to the IUB, there would be things that you might consider that you might borrow money for or bond for.
So just one blanket bond issue, library.
Potentially, but depending on what happens with that entire process to the IUB, it could have implications on our space needs discussions, additional staff persons, financial, payroll, and billing software issues, just a handful of things that could change depending on the council's
I
direction
think when we
after May
get,
1st.
like especially administration piece, if we would need more people, then you're looking at bigger buildings, things on that order.
Okay, I got you. I thought that there was some sort of direct
No.
correlation.
No.
But some of these, the three notwithstanding that I mentioned, are probably more time sensitive than some
Yeah.
of those others.
Have you gotten any estimates on the fire department floor?
We have a recommendation that did not include an engineer's opinion of cost, but I have asked them for an engineer's opinion of cost. It'll be a lot, I'll tell you that, just based on their recommendation.
There being...
We had a structural engineer come in and do an analysis of the structure to try to determine what's going on there.
Sure.
They determined a couple of things. One, that it was not built the way it was supposed to be built, because at the time the council change ordered out some structural amenities that kind of led to the failures that we're seeing. So they're recommending that those structural amenities be put back in. In other words, pilings and structural concrete. That won't be cheap.
So Chad, in background notes, there are a couple of dates proposed as in the next couple of Mondays. Based on the department head meeting today, is that recommendation changing to a different date, or would you still recommend that we go
I
ahead?
think we could get there, especially if we scaled it down a little bit and focused on a few things that maybe are more urgent than some of the bigger or longer term items. But in either case, I think the staff is prepared and have been waiting to just talk about their departments and the pent-up demand overall.
I would prefer the 30th, Mayor.
I am unavailable for that, but
I guess I would prefer the 30th as well. I think that's going to be an initial conversation, and that's going to be ongoing for quite a while too.
30th?
How's the 30th look for anybody else?
This does kind of, Councilperson Lewis, before we were elected, before we were put into office, I remember that Councilperson Lewis had indicated a desire to have formalized work sessions. I guess I would like to recognize that and maybe think about it, just so we have it on the calendar.
Well, let's set Monday, April 30th. 5:30?
5 or 5:30?
Does 5:30 work better, or does 5 o'clock okay with everybody?
5:30 is better for me, but...
Okay, let's do 5:30.
Mayor, at some point I would be interested in having a conversation with fellow council members about revisiting phone attendance or virtual attendance for meetings.
Okay. Chad, why don't we talk about that piece?
Sure.
So we can bring that back. Thank you. Okay. City manager and department heads.
The only other item that I would add is a reminder of the joint meeting with Planning and Zoning and the Parks and Recreation Board tomorrow at 5 o'clock, right here.
And that's full council, or is this just the liaisons that were selected?
Full council, that was my understanding, that's how I set it up.
So it's full council.
So just a reminder that if you need additional information, I'm working with Lindsay too. We'll have some spreadsheets and some conceptual layouts there for you to mark up and look at and whatnot as you engage in the conversation. So otherwise, that's all I have. Thanks.
Don't jump all in at one time.
In trouble with also that Lisa Lansing, our payroll clerk, has recently submitted her resignation. We have started that recruitment process. We are taking applications through the 30th of April. So we are moving forward with getting her replaced.
I did put together a survey of our salt and sand and hauling for the year. I was going to present to you, but with some more snow on the way, I think I'm going to hold off. And I'll get an update later.
Just to let you know, we're beginning our replacement process, interview process for replacing our records clerk who's retiring in September. We're starting this process early because we've had a number of our dispatchers apply. We're conducting this as an internal process, and it's a possibility we would have to replace a dispatcher. We also want to have the person who replaces the records clerk shadow that person for a month or two, because it's a very complicated position that you can't just drop somebody into. So we're going to have a couple of processes going on here very shortly, with the records clerk not really being effective until August, but taking place at this point.
Starting in January of 2018, the Department of Natural Resources started requiring public water supplies with piping that is called a cement asbestos pipe. It's a material made out of both cement and has asbestos in it. Any public water supply with that in their system, which we do. We have a section of main up in Mineral Heights, about 3,000 feet of it. We're required, starting now, to do testing on that water that is going through those mains. We conducted the test about a month ago, and last Friday we received those results back, and all aspects of the testing came back with no detect, no hits, no anything else. So we don't really know where the testing is going from here. They haven't done it for about 15 years, so I think right now they're doing kind of trying to get a baseline of who has an issue, who doesn't have an issue, but as of right now we have no issue in the city of Decorah.
Although attendance at the campground is at an all-time low at this point in April, and soccer season is now 1/3 over, and we have yet to play a game. The sledding hill usage is at an all-time high in April, and so turning lemons into lemonade.
Hey, could you, you know, I really think kudos should go to Erica and yourself and the other people that worked with prom this weekend to make the adjustment.
Yeah, so if you don't know, Decorah Parks and Recreation hosts the post-prom party for the Decorah High School every year, and with the weather, the school scrambled and made some changes and pulled off prom on Saturday in the snowstorm anyway, and Erica did a great job adjusting, and after spending 2 months planning, it was all revamped and planned in one day, so next year we'll know.
Chopper or library? Very good. Let's see, Randy.
Nothing this evening.
Nothing for me, Mayor.
We had our third ward discussion on Saturday morning. I thought it went really well. A lot of people attended, good questions asked. Yeah, it was good. I might even do more of those. It actually went so well. We'll see. Don't hold me to that.
When's the next one?
One a year, maybe.
Just wanted to remind folks that the Oneonta Film Festival starts on Thursday night with an event, and then full blown on Friday, Saturday, and gets finishes on the 22nd, which is Earth Day. So it can be part of the celebration of that occasion too. I would like to say that my experience at the previous town hall we had a week ago or so was very good. Thank the citizens for coming out and being a part of that and asking the questions they were interested in knowing about. And I thought it spoke well to the civility of people to hear, speak to each other. That being said, during my time as the liaison to Decorah Power, I took it upon myself to attend a lot of their learning sessions and listen to a lot of the different municipal electric managers who came to town to present about their situations. And so I'm extremely hopeful what it could do for our community. Hopeful that yes is the dominant vote on the 1st.
I'll be holding a Ward 5 Town Hall in a similar manner to some of them that have been held on Tuesday the 24th at a location to be determined.
To be determined. Phone calls are in.
Yeah, thank you very much for your assistance in scheduling that chat, and looking forward to the opportunity to continue the discussion. And we're going to schedule a Betterment Committee meeting soon.
How long do you suppose the meeting on the 30th will last? Because I would like to schedule a street committee meeting to look at some options on Locust Road. Do you think we can say, so if I was to say 6:30, do you think we'd be safe?
Wow, that's a good question.
Well, let's visit about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But we need to at some point.
Yes, we do.
Nothing there.
Okay, so I'm part of the College Collegiate Chorale, and we just got back from our choir tour this past weekend. And we have our homecoming concert this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. in the CFL. So it would be wonderful to see everyone's lovely faces there. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. I received a note from the Iowa League. I thought it was a joke at first, but I got buttons for the home rule, and it said, "Mayor, thank you for being the first city to pass the proclamation recognizing the 50th anniversary of home rule in Iowa." So we were the first, which is kind of fun. And then I had a request for making a proclamation for Arbor Day. So I was very happy to do that with Dick Gilgo, and I'll get the information in. And that proclamation is for Friday, April 27th, 2018. Let's see. And I think that's all I have.
Mayor, do you have the information on the Hotel Motel Committee?
I do. The tentative, I guess it'd be more than tentative, as a head for the Hotel Motel meeting would be Thursday, April 26th at 5 p.m. in the Chamber Conference Room. And Mike will be sending out official notification in the agenda by Monday the 23rd.
And I think he had a request on there too. He'd like council members to be there. I think that's what he said.
Appreciate it if City Council at this date, I would like them all to be in attendance if possible. So, Monday the 20th, it would be actually Thursday, April 26th. Thanks for having me read through the whole thing. It is at 5 o'clock at the Chamber Conference Room. Anything else? Motion to approve. Motion to approve. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you very much.